Hey, all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly value, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hey there, my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel. I'm your host, femininity coach, and author of The Crimson Cure, and this is my perspective. So, as we may know, if you are living in the Chicagoland area or you are just in tune with things that's going on today, you'll know that Lori Lightfoot did not win the re-election to be mayor of Chicago. And instead of taking accountability for her shortcomings, her woeful shortcomings as mayor of Chicago for her tenure, instead of taking accountability for her bad leadership, her lack of foresight, her lack of conviction on anything that meant anything to any Chicagoan, she opted to play the victim card, which lets me know that no matter where you are in America, as a Black woman in general, you're gonna be able to pull some type of victim card out of your hat rather than take accountability for the failings that you did. And I'm gonna read you an article because we're gonna see the common little victim hat that she pulls out this time. Turns out Chicago voters are racist and sexist against weak, abrasive, crappy mayors. This is an opinion piece. And it says Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot got thumped in Tuesday's primary election in Chicago. Lightfoot, who has presided over a crime wave and a crisis of police morale in the Windy City, responded, as she has done many times before, by blaming racism and sexism. Following her concession speech, a reporter asked her if she was treated unfairly because of her race and gender, with Lightfoot answering, "I'm a Black woman in America, of course." As her 17% showing in the election suggests, Lightfoot's popularity is in the toilet. 4 out of 5 Chicagoans are glad to see her gone. Lightfoot's biggest problem was not her race or her gender. It was her weak performance on several issues, most of all crime, which Chicago Sun-Times columnist Lynn Sweet referred to as the number 1, 2, and 3 issues in the campaign. Theft is up 33% in Chicago since 2018, the last year completely free of Lightfoot. Motor vehicle theft has actually doubled since 2018. In 2022, there were 695 homicides in Chicago, almost 40% higher than the 500 killings in the year that Lightfoot first took office. And that 695 number is actually a slight pullback from the darkest days of her administration in 2021, when the annual homicide total cracked 800, okay? Yet Lightfoot spent most of her mayoralty making the police the enemy. I can vouch for that. She definitely ruined police morale. And I'm not the biggest fan of police, especially Chicago police. Chicago police are really crappy in general. But she really made them the enemy. And as the mayor, you can't really do that. But anyways, that's not to say that Chicago police are a choir of angels. But Lightfoot's tenure has been exceptional in this regard, precipitating a mass exodus from the police force. Chicago PD lost a net 1,458 officers out of 7,660 over her time in office. The effects of this will be felt for years. And of course, you can't blame the police officers who leave. Why would anyone work in a city whose mayor hates police officers and creates a toxic work environment for them? Why wouldn't any Chicago police officer just move to Des Moines or Boise and be done with it? So no, nobody was unfair to Lori Lightfoot. She's just a terrible leader whom Chicago had the misfortune of choosing from a crowded field in a time of political turmoil. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. This is facts. I mean, that was his opinion, but she really, really made life tough for Chicago police. And that didn't do anything but up the angst of the police in the street. Okay, this is why this was concerning to the citizens of Chicago, because she did make a string of decisions that didn't make the police more comfortable on the street. She was actually in that mindset of, the police don't need this type of support and that type of support. But you're the mayor of a city, so you have to support your police department. Now, if your police department is unusually corrupt, it would be your job to clean the police department up as best as you can. And that may make you a few enemies, but it won't destroy the morale, generally speaking, of the police department, because you're cleaning it up. You're not necessarily making life harder for them, or you're making their job more difficult for them. So a lot of the things that was going on, like the one big turning point between her and the police department was when those police officers were shot and one of them passed away. And because of the way in which she handled that entire situation in the media, the way that she sort of blamed the police department for that, she didn't show a lot of empathy, and she didn't show a lot of support for the police department in that time. A lot of police officers just simply, it was an incident where she came to visit one of the officers that was in the hospital who had gotten shot, and the officers that were there literally like turned their backs to her as she walked. They would not greet her. They would not respect her. They would not even speak to her or look at her. And so that was but one of a lot of things that she did wrong. She just really had bad leadership. Lori Lightfoot did not know how to run a city. And because she doesn't have any leadership, she doesn't know anything. She didn't know what to do. The crime did rise. There was a whole thing about carjackings that had been going on since the pandemic. And that had really risen and gotten to a really crazy place, because people were like, okay, we don't know where to drive because of the car theft and the carjackings. Even, I'm going to tell you how bad the crime got in Chicago, because the bad areas got worse, but there were even a lot of shootings. And I'm going to say a lot because there were a handful over the last year or two. Shootings in downtown and the River North area and downtown. Remember, it's under her watch that FBG Duck got. And he got on the Gold Coast. Listen, let me tell you something. Regardless of whether you think that was a hit, blah, 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 I'm not here to speak to that because I don't know nothing about that. But at the same time, don't nobody get got on the Gold Coast. Nobody gets got on the Gold Coast. You know why? Because the Gold Coast is where the millionaires and the billionaires live, and that's where they shop, and that's where they eat, and that's where they are. Okay, the police presence on the Gold Coast is insane. Okay, and they're not harassing everybody; they're just there. Okay, there's a police everywhere. You cannot go downtown, especially on the Magnificent Mile, especially on the Gold Coast, and not run into an officer either in their vehicle or walking around everywhere, no matter how crowded it gets. So for somebody to get got in that environment, yeah, crime was ridiculous. Also, shootings in River North. River North is also downtown. It's not on the Magnificent Mile, but it is in the heart of downtown. These are places where shootings don't happen. Okay, these are places where crime is just very low. Okay, the chances of you getting shot in the past in Chicago downtown was little to none. Okay, you can come from the hood. If you're going to downtown, you're not going to get bothered. Okay, unless you're bothering people. But these are just a lot of the shortcomings that Lori Lightfoot had. She just was incompetent as a mayor. If you watch any of her news conferences or anything like that, she just was all emotion, and she didn't have a good handle on the facts. She didn't have a good handle on the stats. She didn't have a good handle on what was going on the ground in the city of Chicago right underneath her nose. She was so busy being enwrapped in identity politics and the whole Democrat, liberal, woke, progressive thing, the whole Black woman thing, she was so enwrapped in that she couldn't concentrate on actually doing anything for the city economically or anything, like everything. It is already bad here. Like it's already bad here as a state, right? Illinois as a state doesn't run very well because they keep electing Democrats for everything. And I'm sorry, it's just not working at all. And I'm not the biggest fan of Republicans or any of that, right? But at the same time, when something is extremely bad to the point of not being functional, you got to try something else. You just have to try something else. And people here, they vote blue all the time. Like it's always that. And it's always increasingly worse. But the biggest point is that she decided in her speech to not take accountability for those things, to blame external factors. Who exactly is against you because of race and gender? Now, I find it to be ridiculous and ironic that when she won the mayoral campaign, it was because of her race and gender. Oh, she's the first Black woman to be mayor, and she's the first Black LGBT woman to be mayor in Chicago. That was a big to do. It proved how progressive Chicagoans were and how wonderful they were and how open-minded they were, that they would be able to vote in a Black woman who was also a part of the rainbow community. Now that she failed miserably in her tenure as mayor in Chicago, now all of a sudden those same accolades that she won the election on the back of, and people were so wonderful for voting for her despite the fact that she was a woman, despite the fact she was a Black woman, and despite the fact that she belonged to the alphabet community. Now, all of a sudden, these same voters that are glad to see her go, actually, they were, racist and sexist, and they were against her the whole time. And it's like, make up your mind. Black people, Black women cannot take accountability for anything, like nothing. No matter how high up on the echelon of mobility that you go or the socioeconomic scale that you go, no matter if you're talking about the Keishas down at the bottom or the so-called mayors or whatever at the top, they can't ever take accountability and come in and drop down and come clean in front of the public and say, I failed. I failed. I was not a good mayor. I was not the best mayor. And the people have spoken. They have exercised their constitutional right to elect an official that they feel is going to represent them the best and serve them the best. That was not me. That politician was not me. Okay? And I thank the people of Chicago for having faith in me in the first place. And I did the best I could, blah blah blah. She didn't say all of that thing. She immediately went into being a victim. Now she wants to use her race. Now she wants to use her gender. She stopped a little bit shy of using her sexuality as a reason why she was unable to win the re-election. And I just found that to be interesting, that you have an individual who's supposed to know better, but y'all don't know better, because the other mayor, Keisha, I forgot, I think she used to be the mayor of Atlanta, I want to say, she be wilding out and thotting and bopping. Then you had that senator that I did a show on last year who was twerking all at the beach or whatever. Mac was her name. And that was her whole thing with the campaign, with the twerking. It's like, y'all are ghetto everywhere, huh? Y'all back-footed everywhere. Come on, Lightfoot, aka Smithers from The Simpsons. Okay, Mr. Burns, you can blame Mr. Burns for being racist and sexist. He was dealing with, he was working for Mr. Burns don't like nobody. But that ain't his fault that you didn't get reelected, beloved. You were a horrid mayor. She was worse than the Dailies. Worse than the Dailies. Worse than Daley or his dad before him. Because the city of Chicago had been run by Dailies for a long time. They had like a monopoly on the whole thing. Okay. Worse than the Dailies. How could you be worse than the Dailies in Chicago? She make the dailies look like the best, mayors that Chicago has ever had in recent history. She really did. It was bad. And I'm not politically astute necessarily. I wasn't paying attention to every little thing, but there were a lot of key things that made me give her a side eye. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Don't turn the police. Don't make them angry, because guess who they not gonna assault? And guess who they're going to take that angst and that anger out on? The people of Chicago. Duh. As the mayor, you got to stick up for them. You ran for mayor of Chicago. You did that. And you were a horrid leader. And I won't take accountability for none of it. Don't want to take responsibility for all of the horrible mistakes that you made in that position. Nobody liked her. The chaotic city hall office she was running. She ran Chicago into chaos. No order, no sense. And then want to blame your sex and your gender about it. Girl, if you don't knock it off in your granddaddy's suit. At least we ain't got to look at that no more in a press conference. You didn't even have the good sense to comb your head. I know you're of the L party, but you can still look presentable. Even if you is going to be masculine. Look presentable in your masculine. Wear a suit that fits you. Mayor don't make enough money to go get a nice tailored suit to fit you. You little bitty thing. She's small with a man's suit on. Go get a female suit and tail it and make it, because she little. Mayor Lightfoot ain't no big old woman. That's a little bitty woman. And I don't know why she didn't have, if you got to wear a suit, I don't know why you couldn't have wore a nice one. Anyway, I don't know why you couldn't have combed your head. I don't know why you got to stand there looking like Don King on a bad day. Anyway, I don't even want to continue going on with it. I just wanted to point out the fact that no matter where they are, they don't take accountability. That was the real reason why I brought this up. But anyway, I'm actually glad that she out of office. I don't know who gonna really, you know what? I'm just glad she gone. Anyway, I want to draw everybody's attention to the fact that you can go and get your copy of my new book, Reclaiming the Black Feminine, The Lies of Feminism and the Road to Recovery. The link to that is in the description box at crimsoncure.com. Also, the book is on sale on Kindle, and the link to that is in the description box as well. Also, jump down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Once again, I'm your host, The Crimson Cure, and this was my perspective. Bye-bye, Crimsonites.
Hello, my Crimsonites and all of my supporters. I invite you to go and get your copy of my new book, Reclaiming the Black Feminine, The Lies of Feminism and the Road to Recovery, on sale now at crimsoncure.com. This is guaranteed to change your perspective and positively impact your life. So go ahead now to crimsoncure.com and get your copy today.